Look around you on the motorway. Half the people driving flashy, modern SUVs are quietly sweating over a massive monthly finance deal, while the other half are waiting on the hard shoulder for the RAC. It doesn't have to be you. Right now, there are 5 dirt-cheap, completely overlooked SUVs sitting quietly at the back of UK forecourts depreciating into nothing, and their owners have absolutely no clue what they're actually sitting on. If you spend £4,000 or £5,000 on one of the 3 Goldmines on this list today, you'll be driving a car for the next decade that people with twice your budget will quietly envy. Stick around for number 1, because it's a car so wrongly ignored, it feels like the people who do buy it are keeping a secret deliberately. Let's go. Number 5. Nissan Pathfinder R51, 2005 to 2012. The Pathfinder R51 is the SUV that the market forgot, and the market is wrong. Go back to 2005, and the Pathfinder was a credible rival to the Land Rover Discovery 3 and the Mitsubishi Shogun. It had 7 seats, a genuine ladder frame chassis, and a proper part-time 4-wheel drive system with a lockable rear differential. Nissan sold it to farmers, families, and towing enthusiasts who needed something capable without the Range Rover price tag. Then the market drifted towards softer crossovers, and the Pathfinder got left behind. Today, that decision by the buying public is your opportunity. Used examples from 2008 onwards, midlife models with the revised 2.5-liter DCI diesel sit between £2,800 and £6,500 on UK classifieds. For reference, that is less than the optional extras list on a new Nissan Juke, and what you are getting for that money is a vehicle rated to tow 3,000 kilograms, carry 7 adults, and cover ground that would have a modern crossover beached on a farm track. Now, the honest caveats. The 2.5-liter diesel does suffer from timing chain stretch on higher mileage examples. This is not an engine killer if it's caught early, but it's an expensive repair if it's been ignored. Budget for a chain replacement as a negotiating chip if you're looking at anything over 100,000 miles. The DPF on urban examples clogs predictably, so a motorway history is worth a premium. Early models used a 4.0-liter petrol V6 that is mechanically tough, but returns fuel economy closer to a punishment than a figure you'd admit at the pump, around 22 to 24 miles per gallon combined. The sweet spot is a 2009 to 2011 2.5 DCI with a service history that shows regular oil changes and at least 1 timing chain inspection. MOT pass rates for the Pathfinder sit in the mid-80s, which is respectable for a body-on-frame vehicle of this age. And Nissan's parts network means nothing is out of reach financially. Insurance groups typically land in the mid-20s. Road tax for post-2006 models runs to around £330 a year. Is it a goldmine? Not quite. Solid workhorse with honest flaws. It earns its spot at 5, but it won't make you feel like you've outsmarted the market. Numbers 4 and 3 will. Number 4. Ford Kuga Mark I, 2008 to 2012. Not a gold mine, but honest value. Before we get to the 3 gold mines, let's give a fair hearing to the Kuga Mark I, a car that gets unfairly lumped in with the wave of cheap, throwaway crossovers that defined the late 2000s. The first-generation Kuga is not that. Underneath the familiar blue oval sits a platform shared with the Mondeo, which means the steering is properly sorted. The ride is better than it has any right to be at this price point, and the 2.0-liter T DCI diesel, in its 136 or 163 brake horsepower tune, is an engine that Ford ran across half its range for years because it works. It's not the last word in sophistication, but it will pass 150,000 miles with regular service intervals without drama. Prices are absurdly low right now. A 2010 Kuga Titanium with full service history and under 90,000 miles can be found for between £2,500 and £4,500. For the money, you are getting DAB radio, heated seats, parking sensors, and a 4-wheel drive system that handled British winter roads intelligently enough to impress in back-to-back tests against pricier rivals when it was new. The known weak spots are manageable. The DPF does what DPFs do on cars that have spent years on school runs: clog. Turbo actuator failures are reported on neglected examples. The 4-wheel drive coupling can wear on high-mileage cars, and the symptoms to watch for are vibration through the drivetrain under light load. A proper inspection from an independent Ford specialist before buying is non-negotiable, but the repair costs, when things do go wrong, are Ford parts cheap, not German prestige expensive. The Kuga Mark I is not a gold mine. It's honest, sorted, competent, and deeply undervalued. It belongs on this list because too many buyers walk past it for a newer, flashier crossover with a longer list of problems and a shorter list of MOT certificates. But hold on, because the 3 cars coming up are in a different league entirely. Number 3. First Goldmine, Toyota RAV4 Mark III, 2006 to 2012. Here is where things get genuinely exciting. The third generation RAV4 does not look exciting. That is entirely the point. It looks exactly like what it is, a sensible mid-size family SUV from Toyota, built to exactly the same standards as the Corolla and the Land Cruiser that Toyota's reputation for mechanical longevity was built on. The buying public looks at it, thinks boring, and keeps scrolling. Congratulations, that is the opening. The heart of this car's case is the 2.0-liter petrol or 2.2-liter D4D diesel engine. The D4D diesel is the headline. It is the same engine family used in the Avensis and the Verso, an engine Toyota refined over a decade before dropping it into the RAV4. And it shows. Properly serviced examples routinely reach 200,000 miles. Not 200,000 miles with a string of part replacements. 200,000 miles of dependable, unremarkable, set-and-forget motoring. Owner forums are stuffed with testimonials from private hire drivers and rural families who replaced nothing significant beyond consumables for years. What you pay. A 2009 to 2011 Toyota RAV4 2.2 D4DX TR, which in any other brand's language means leather, alloys, and climate control, costs between £3,500 and £7,000, depending on mileage and history. That is not a typo. A leather-trimmed four-wheel drive family SUV from one of the most reliable manufacturers in automotive history, for less than £7,000. The weak spots, because there always are some. The diesel particulate filter is the main watch point on urban cycle examples. The DPF on the 2.2 D4D is not cheap to replace and doesn't respond as well to regeneration attempts as some rivals. A car with a documented motorway service history is worth hunting for specifically. The rear differential on the four-wheel drive version can give trouble on very high mileage examples, and the fix is not trivial. Watch for any vibration during a hard acceleration test drive. Insurance sits in groups 16 to 20, which is remarkably low for what you're getting. Road tax for diesel post-2006 examples runs to around £180 per year. Fuel economy from the 2.2 D4D in real-world mixed driving lands between 38 and 42 miles per gallon. Figures that humiliate newer, heavier crossovers with more efficient engines on paper. Why is this a gold mine? Because Toyota's brand association in the UK has, illogically, become a middle-of-the-road fleet car image that suppresses prices on the used market. Buyers who want reliability go German out of habit. Toyota's engineering track record blows that assumption out of the water statistically, but perception persists. The person who does their homework and buys this car for £5,000 instead of a £12,000 German rival is not settling. They are winning. Number 2. Second gold mine. Land Rover, Freelander. 2TD4, 2010 to 2014. Wait, Land Rover? On a reliability list? On a budget list? Hear me out, because this one requires a sharper knife than most buyers are willing to use. The Freelander 2 has a reputation, much of it deserved, particularly for early examples from 2006 to 2009, which used a development-era Haldex four-wheel drive coupling and an engine combination that had not yet been properly resolved. Those early cars have earned their reputation for expense. That is not the car we're talking about. We are talking specifically about the post-2010 Freelander 2 TD4 ED4 and TD4 2.2-liter, fitted with the updated driveline, the revised power steering rack, and crucially, the revised Haldex Generation 4 coupling. These are different cars. The Haldex coupling on the revised model responds correctly to regular fluid changes. Every 40,000 miles is the critical interval that separates trouble-free Freelander 2 ownership from an eye-watering coupling replacement bill. Do the fluid, don't skip the fluid. That is the entire secret of the Freelander 2. With that one ritual observed, the 2010 onwards Freelander 2 TD4 is a 190,000-mile vehicle. The 2.2-liter Ford Peugeot PSA-sourced diesel engine is robust, well understood by independent specialists, and cheap to maintain against its outputs. The interior is still the best in class at any price point near this car's current used value. Genuine leather, clear instruments, and the kind of switchgear quality that makes Japanese rivals feel slightly flimsy by comparison. The ride quality on motorways is a genuinely premium experience that buyers paying double or triple this price in the mid-2000s were paying for. Current prices. A 2012 Freelander 2 GS or SE with below 80,000 miles and a service history that shows Haldex fluid changes sits between £5,500 and £9,500. The SE specification comes with heated leather, a decent DAB audio system, and the kind of cabin refinement that makes an hour on the M6 feel notably less punishing than anything a rival in this price bracket can match. Known weak points beyond the Haldex. The IRD, Intermediate Reduction Drive, is a transfer case unit bolted to the front of the gearbox that also requires fluid changes, and far too many service histories show it has been ignored. Neglected IRD units fail catastrophically. Budget £800 to £1,200 for replacement if there's no evidence of attention. EGR valve suiting is common and manageable. Coolant hose perishing on high-mileage examples is something to physically inspect under the bonnet. The power steering pump can develop a whine before failing. None of these are deal breakers. Every single one is predictable, documented, and cheaper to fix than the equivalent fault on a BMW X3 or an Audi Q5 from the same period. And the Land Rover name on the boot lid still carries enough cultural weight in Britain that resale, when the time comes, is kinder than on Japanese or Korean rivals at similar prices. Why is this a goldmine? Because the Freelander 2's reputation has been tarred with the brush of its early troubles. Buyers who understand the specific model year cutoff and the Haldex fluid requirement are finding refined, capable, and genuinely premium-feeling SUVs for prices that look like errors. That is not the market correcting. That is the market being uninformed. Your job is to be better informed than the market. Number 1. The absolute goldmine, Honda CR-V. Mark III, 2006 to 2012. People consistently underpay for this car. That's it. That's the whole story. But let's do this properly, because it deserves the full treatment. The third-generation Honda CR-V arrived in 2006 with Honda's 2.2-liter IDTEC diesel engine, an engine so comprehensively over-engineered for its application that Honda used a version of it in the Accord Tourer, the FR-V, and kept it in production for years beyond when rivals had moved to new platforms. It is a motor that mechanics describe with admiration using the same words every time. It doesn't go wrong. That is not hyperbole. The Warranty Direct Reliability Survey, which pulled in real-world claims data from thousands of UK policies, rated the Honda CR-V in this generation among the top performers in the entire SUV and crossover segment, not top 5. At the very top, the 2.2 ID Tech in the CR-V has been documented returning 220,000 mile odometer readings with nothing beyond routine service items replaced. The clutch, in a CR-V driven without aggression, typically survives well past 100,000 miles. The real-time four-wheel drive system, which engages the rear axle intelligently only when front slip is detected, is elegantly simple and virtually trouble-free in practice. The numbers that should make any informed buyer stop scrolling. A 2009 Honda CR-V 2.2 IDTECEX, which is the top specification, with leather, reversing camera, dual-zone climate, and a panoramic roof, can be found today in the UK for between £4,000 and £7,500, with sub 100,000 miles and full Honda dealer service history. That is the EX, the flagship, with the reversing camera and the leather seats. A 2009 Audi Q5 2.0 TDI, in equivalent S-Line specification, same mileage range, will cost you between £10,000 and £16,000. And the Audi will, almost certainly, need the timing chain tensioner, the DPF, the rear brake calipers, or the multi-link suspension before the Honda needs anything beyond a timing belt. The Honda's known service items are clear and honest. The 2.2 ID Tech timing belt must be changed every 100,000 miles or 10 years. This is not negotiable and must be evidenced in the history. Skip it, and you risk destroying an otherwise immortal engine. Water pump should be replaced at the same time. EGR valve suiting occurs on short-run urban examples, and a car that has spent a decade doing school runs will need an EGR clean. Rear shock absorbers can develop a knock after 80,000 miles. Replacement is straightforward, and parts are Honda-priced, not Prestige Mark-priced. The interior. Here is where the CR-V Mark III surprises people who haven't sat inside one. Honda used quality materials throughout the cabin in a way that has aged far better than many competitors. The rear seats flip and tumble to reveal a completely flat boot floor. The load space is class-leading for its footprint. The rear seat legroom is generous enough for adults on long motorway runs without the discomfort that afflicts narrower rivals. The fuel economy. The 2.2 ID Tech returns 45 to 48 miles per gallon in real-world mixed driving for motorway-biased examples. That is genuinely impressive for a 1,600-kilogram SUV with four-wheel drive. It makes the CR-V inexpensive to run in a way that compounds over the years of ownership into a meaningful financial difference against thirstier alternatives. Insurance. Groups 16 to 22 depending on specification. Road tax for post-2009 models runs between £165 and £210 per year. Service costs at an independent Honda specialist, and there are many because the CR-V sold in large numbers and the knowledge base is wide, are modest by any standard. The resale argument. The CR-V's biggest crime against its own market value is that it looks entirely reasonable. It doesn't have the Shogun's expedition mythology, the Land Rover badge's social currency, or the German prestige that still commands a premium despite the ownership horror stories. Honda built it to work, and it works, and the British used market shrugs and moves on to the badge it recognizes. That shrug is the opportunity. When the neighbors ask what you're driving, you tell them it's a Honda. They nod and forget. Meanwhile, you are clearing 45 miles per gallon, paying less than £200 road tax, watching an engine that has 300,000 miles of documented potential still sitting at 85,000 on the clock, and the only thing you've spent money on in 2 years of ownership is oil, a set of tires, and a timing belt that Honda required you to change anyway. That is what a gold mine looks like. It doesn't glitter, it just keeps working. So there it is. 5 of the most undervalued, overlooked, quietly remarkable SUVs available in the UK right now. The Nissan Pathfinder R51, proper body-on-frame 4x4 capability for Land Cruiser money, with Toyota-level prices instead of Toyota-level demand. The Ford Kuga Mark I, honest, sorted, Ford parts cheap, and far better than its reputation among buyers who've never driven one. The Toyota RAV4 Mark III, 200,000 miles on Japanese engineering, sold at prices that make no logical sense. The Land Rover Freelander 2TD4 post-2010, premium cabin quality, revised reliability, and a single fluid change separating smart ownership from expensive regret. And the Honda CR-V Mark III, the absolute goldmine. The car the market ignores because it refuses to shout about itself, while quietly building a case that any rational buyer presented with a spreadsheet would find almost impossible to argue against. None of these are glamorous choices, all 5 of them are honest ones, and in a used market where the alternative is paying premium prices for software problems, suspended air failures, and touchscreens that cost more to replace than an entire car from this list. Honest is exactly what the situation calls for. Drop a comment below. Which of these 5 would you actually buy? Which would you walk straight past? And if you've already owned one of them, tell us the story. The good, the bad, and the breakdown you didn't see coming. Like, if this helped. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of analysis. We'll see you in the next one.